Hi, this is Brad Straley with Jacksonville for Life. Today we have Nick Loeb, actor and producer. Mr. Loeb began his career at Universal Studios. He went on to work on his first feature film, Primary Colors, starring John Travolta. Mr. Loeb then began the international production company producing The Smokers with executive producer Quincy Jones. Later went on to partner with Barbra Streisand to produce 5 episodes of the award-winning documentary called The Living Century. Since then, he's been worked on several films over the last 18 years with stars like Bruce Willis, Billy Bob Thornton, Kathy Bates, Gerard Butler, Tyson Beckford, Billy Zane, Shane Austen, among many others. Nick, appreciate you being on today.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, it is our pleasure. It is our pleasure. I'd like to talk about Roe versus Wade, the movie.
Yeah, so we are making, I think for the first time in history, a theatrical version of the true story of Roe v. Wade, the most famous court case in American history.
Great, great. So the movie is going to talk about the lead up to the decision?
Yes, I mean, Supreme Court cases, unlike maybe an episode of Law and Order where there are witnesses and cross-examinations, are quite boring visually. It's really just lawyers making presentations and justices asking questions. And so the majority of their film takes place between 1966 to 1973. From the foundations, it touches on the foundations of Planned Parenthood and the birth of the pro-life movement and the women's rights movement, and exactly who were the people that were involved that got this going and got this to the courts and got the courts to change it, and the people who were fighting it. So you have sort of the story of the social war movie of both sides of the life movement and the women's rights movement.
Great, great. Now I understand you're going to produce this film.
Yeah, so, currently, we're in the financing and development stages, hopefully looking to shoot the film sometime this summer, doing a crowdfunder right now on Indiegogo at RoeVWadeMovie.com. So, any support we can get. The challenge we've had is that this is not something that Hollywood wants to finance, and this is something that companies like Facebook are trying to stop. So it's been a real challenge to get it financed, although we have attracted, great people to be involved.
Right. I saw that. Now, are you going to act in the film as well?
I don't know about that. I haven't crossed that bridge. I guess we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. I think right now we're focused on getting, famous people attached to it. So right now we've got Jon Voight, Stephen Baldwin, Stacey Dash, Jennifer O'Neill. I think this week we're going to have a new surprise attachment. Hopefully I'll know that by tomorrow or sometime this week. And so, our focus are getting those bigger names attached to the film, and which helps us get it financed. Sure.
I understand that Dr. Veldy King will have a cameo appearance as well.
Yeah. So Dr. Velveeta King has been an incredible supporter of ours. She's an executive producer on the film, and she's going to play a small cameo as the mother of Dr. Mildred Jefferson. For those of your listeners who don't know, Dr. Jefferson was the first African-American woman to graduate from Harvard Medical School and was the second president of National Right to Life. And she was a leader on trying to stop this movement.
That is fantastic. Now, I apologize. I should ask this at the beginning, Nick. Do you have a stance on abortion?
I do. I am pro-life. I tell people that I'm, a bit of a convert, like a couple of our characters actually in the film. I think for those listeners who don't know, Jane Roe, who brought the case, actually ended up becoming pro-life and a leading activist to protect life, as well as the one of the leads in our film, a doctor named Bernard Nathanson. But yeah, I think, like most people of my generation, and I'm 42, we grew up being educated and taught that when a woman gets pregnant, it's a blob of cells, and there's nothing in there. It's not a life. And so I was sort of, maybe even, I was sort of agnostic maybe on the issue, and I didn't hold any position one way or another, maybe even leaned a bit, towards calling it a woman's right to choose. And, through my life, I've, had certain circumstances and learned, and technology and a lot of things, help me and change and convert my ideas, through my own life experiences. And so, and even through the making of this film, I've become more ardently pro-life every day. Because through the making of this film, I've learned a lot more. I've learned about how this came to be, the process, and that there's really a baby there from literally day one, from date of inception. Sometimes we can hear a heartbeat, within the first month. And so there's no other way to call it, anything but a life, not a blob of cells.
Yeah, it is difficult to think otherwise with modern medicine and science. Now, I was reading, and correct me if I'm wrong, but some of the film is going to talk about at that time the popular narrative as a what we call a pro-abortion whitewash, the distortion of the history of the abortion sympathizers, both in politics and media.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So we give a little history actually, and I'm happy to tell your viewers now, or your listeners now. But we put some of this at RoeVWadeMovie.com. So Dr. Alveda King gives a little 3-minute narration on the story of the film. If people want to go and see that at RoeVWadeMovie.com. And where she talks about the beginnings of Planned Parenthood and why is Planned Parenthood so important in the story, because it really wasn't Jane Roe that pushed this case. It was the folks who worked alongside or worked for Planned Parenthood and NARAL at the time that pushed this agenda. And so the foundations of Planned Parenthood were very important, and it was founded by a woman named Margaret Sanger. Margaret Sanger's real true initiative was actually not abortion, but contraception in African-American neighborhoods. Her first project was called the Negro Project, as she called it, and that was her goal to reduce the African-American population in this country. This is why Mildred Jefferson has become such an important character, because as a doctor, her goal was not only to uphold the oath that she took, Hippocratic Oath, and not to kill lives, but also she felt that abortion was the number one killer of which it is, the African Americans in this country, and so she felt that it was killing her race. So it was a fight not only for life, but for her race as well.
Yeah. Now, so Nick, you were saying how we're going to see how Margaret Sanger was promoting her Negro Project. For those that are going to be considered anti-abortion, do you know how that's going to be shown, to where this isn't something that's just coming from the right? This is actually something that did happen in the 20th century?
So we're going to, essentially we use language and vocabulary within, there are scenes with Margaret Sanger, and we use words that she used in real life. We don't make anything up. We take them from speeches and letters that she gave. One was a speech she actually gave at a KKK rally. And so there's a scene of her giving a speech at a KKK rally, which is not something we made up. We took it directly from history.
Wow. That's certainly going to be worth more than 1,000 words.
Well, I'm sure we'll be criticized for embellishing or making things up. Or, if you go and Google Margaret Sanger, there will be a lot of things online saying The pro-lifers have accused her of being a racist, but she's not a racist. Well, when she, says that a segment of the population shouldn't be here because they're unfit, because they're African Americans, I don't know how else you take that besides racism. So, they'll try to twist and change anything for their agenda, but we take her words word for word.
Right. Yeah, we are used to that. Now, you mentioned about poor Norma McCovey, which was Roe in the case. How the pro-aborts had, I hate to say lied, but she ended up giving birth to her child.
Well, yeah, it was her third child at the time. She'd already given birth to 2 other children. She was still very young and a teenager, and pregnant for the third time, and didn't know what to do. And she thought maybe she can get an abortion. And she was actually more looking for an illegal abortion. And she met 2 lawyers that were at the time, volunteering for NARAL and what became Planned Parenthood and the National Organization of Women, and they were sort of instructed and guided to how to convince Norma to sue the state of Texas when Henry Wade. Norma was just looking for an abortion. She wasn't looking for really a lawsuit. They told her that if she proceeded with this lawsuit, she would be able to get an abortion, which obviously was completely untrue and a lie, because we know how long the court process takes, and she was already several months pregnant. When she asked, these people who were working with Planned Parenthood at the time, said, she didn't even know what an abortion was. She asked them, what is an abortion? What do I have to go through? And they said, oh, well, don't worry. It's just like removing a piece of skin. I don't want to get into too much of the detail and give it all away, but there's a lot more to the manipulation of Norma's character and story through the process than just that, which is shocking.
It is shocking. We're speaking with Nick Loeb, and we're discussing the upcoming Roe versus Wade, the movie. We're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
This is Jim Radloff with Embrace Life Ministries. If you'd like to get involved in pro-life ministry, please give us a call at 237-7572. Do what you can to help save babies in Jacksonville.
Hi, this is Brad Straley with Jacksonville for Life. Today we're speaking with Nick Loeb, and we're discussing Roe versus Wade, the movie. Nick, you mentioned earlier how Hollywood is not going to give you hundreds of millions of dollars to talk about something that is taboo to the pro-aborts. How are you raising money? Obviously, this isn't free. None of this is free. Advertising isn't free. I'm sure some of these actors are going to want to get, and actresses are going to want to be paid. How are you raising the funds to produce this movie?
So we had to go to the general public. So we decided to do a crowdfunder at RoeVWadeMovie.com. We raised already about $2.5 million, and we're looking to raise another $2.5 million. It's a $5 million budget. And so people go to RoeVWadeMovie.com. They can donate $1. They can donate up to as much as they want. And for that, they get different perks. So the fun perks are, you can actually be an extra in a movie, or if you donate a lot of money, you can even get a speaking role in the movie, or if you have a son or a daughter that wants to intern with the director or the costume department, there are all these different kind of perks you can get by making a donation. But we've had a lot of challenges promoting that through Facebook. So Facebook's the biggest, website in the world to be able to promote things online. And when we launched 4 weeks ago, Facebook blocked us from sharing our page with our friends. Then Facebook blocked people who were becoming friends or joining or liking this, they were blocking them from. We even then bought advertising on Facebook, and they blocked us after we gave them money. Blocked us from sharing the advertising. It got even so bad that at one point, Dr. Alveda King started to try to share her page with her fans and her friends and supporters, and Facebook blocked her. And Facebook actually blocked her on her uncle's birthday weekend, the Martin Luther King weekend.
Right.
And at which point they ended up letting us share again, because we ended up getting some press around this, and it created some embarrassment for Facebook. But we're still having challenges promoting as our posts on the news around it. Every time we have new actors or new radio announcements, we post it to our friends, and Facebook doesn't allow those posts to show up in their feeds. So a lot of people don't see our posts. So we need people like you to help us get your audience to RoeVWadeMovie.com to help us do this, since it's sort of the biggest online platform in the world is against us.
Well, we will certainly promote it, because it is worth bringing out the truth of something that's been going on for so long, and of course it's cost 60 million lives. When you were making the movie, or producing it, what did you find most disturbing about, the time frame from 1966 to 1973, Loeb?
I found I think the most disturbing thing, and I would say interesting thing, is the phenomenon that we today call fake news. This is not something new. This is something that's been going on for years. We've just, I think, coined a phrase. And so essentially what the pro-choice movement was doing back then, the people who worked at NARAL and Planned Parenthood, they actually had an outlined strategy, a media strategy, segmented around fake news. And what they would do is they would make up polls and statistics, and they would come out and say, well, we just recently took a survey, and over 100,000 women are dying every year of back alley abortions. And then they would feed that to the media, and the media would then report it, and everybody would get upset. Well, later it came out, the person who made all that up came out later and admitted it and said, yeah, we made it up because we wanted to influence the media, to influence the people, to essentially influence the courts. And that was just one of many, many things that they would do. They created such a segmented strategy about the timing of pro-abortion articles, and every quarter for years they would make sure that there was an article in Newsweek magazine. And so to really sort of embed in the consciousness of Americans and build this fake news narrative to win their agenda. And it's something that we're seeing today. And I think this was sort of the most interesting, shocking, and revealing part of this. Other than that, I think the most egregious part of the actual trial itself, or the Supreme Court, the most egregious part of, or one of them, I don't want to get into give everything away, but, actually during this time, during the Supreme Court hearing, there was so many conflicts of interest. One of them happened to be that actually two of the Supreme Court justices had family members at the time working for Planned Parenthood.
Yep. They
were making the decision. And so, I think that's a huge conflict of interest. And you have a lot of these things that sort of influenced the Supreme Court and the actual members, between their family and the media, and even some of the expert testimony that one of the justices wrote in his opinion. He essentially only used two people that he cited in his opinion. One of the persons he cited was a guy named Larry Lader, who was not a doctor, not an expert. The only thing he'd ever done was write a book called Abortion and made most of his money on collecting fees from helping girls find illegal doctors. And justice, one of the justices who wrote the opinion, cited his book in his opinion, half a dozen times or more. One of the other people that was cited in the opinion was one of the lawyers who were writing amicus briefs for the case, and so no true historian or true medical doctor or, anything was actually used in this opinion. And so, this ends up becoming one of the worst decisions, regardless if you're for or against abortion. It becomes one of the worst constitutional decisions in history. And I think even some of the justices today that are even liberal will tell you that the way Roe was decided was not constitutional and was one of the horrible. Even Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who has come out and said the way it was decided was not correct.
Yep, I saw that too. What led you to produce this film?
Well, it was interesting. I was working on a film about a year and a half ago, and a friend of mine had come up to me and had read a story about my own personal pro-life battle, which I'm going through, and said, "Have you ever thought about making a movie about the most famous court case in American history, Roe v. Wade?" And I said, I couldn't believe it. I said, "No one's ever made a movie." He said, "Well, I guess there was a 1989 movie made for TV that really nobody has really seen, and it doesn't go into the truth, and was sort of what I call the Wikipedia version of the story, sort of the very bare bones minimums. It doesn't go into the real true story of how this had happened. And actually, the movie is also fake, because they don't get into what they said to Norma and how Norma really reacted. And Norma hadn't at the time really come out with the true story either in 1989. She doesn't come out until years later when she converted.
Right.
And so I started reading about it. I read 20 different scripts. 20 different books, and ended up finding the characters to be fascinating, and realized that this wasn't just a straight story. This was like the movie JFK. It was a conspiracy story. It was a conspiracy movie. And so not only was this, passion for me because of the issue, but I thought there was a lot of entertainment value because of the conspiracy behind how this happened and how it came to light.
Great. What's next for you, Nick?
So next for me is continuing to fundraise. We can't make the movie without the support of your listeners. And the exciting thing is, although we've raised some money so far, we've got a lot of contributors the last month. I think almost 1,100 people have actually contributed. But we need bigger dollar amounts. So I need, an angel out there to come in and write a bigger check. And as soon as we have that money, we can go right into production. I mean, the day we close our financing, we can go and start shooting in 60 days. So between now and then, it's continuing to bring on cast members and continuing to raise money at RoeVWadeMovie.com.
Great, Nick. We are out of time. I want to thank you so much for joining us today and for all you do to promote a culture of life. We'd like to thank this station for being faithful to his word and this opportunity today. And thank you for listening. For more information about local pro-life efforts, please visit us at jacksonvilleforlife.org. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Until next time, do something, say babies in Jacksonville.